Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Reasonably Effective podcast brought to myself, Uncommon Fossil, in 10 types.
Yep. Hello, everyone.
And as we're recording here, the World Championships are going on, so we're not going to talk about what's happening at Worlds this year as to what the decks were or anything like that. But it is World Championship weekend. We'll get some big reveal, hopefully. But that's not what we're talking about today either, because we don't know what that is at this point in time either. But because it's World Championship, it pushed us back to World Championships of years gone by, and 10 Types had the idea of taking a look at some cards from past World Championship decks and older cards, and just seeing what they would be like if we were to bring them, I think, into standard format, right? Is that the general concept here?
Kind of, not exactly. Also, somewhat focused on like how the I don't know, just like kind of looking at them. I guess kind of in the mindset of how they look in standard, but also like how interesting they are, and just notice some different design decisions that they made in the past as well. And these are all cards that have appeared, I believe, in World Championship winning decks, and these are also all before Black and White. And I'd say you and I are not very familiar with pre-Black and White, so this is going to be a bit of an almost reaction style video. I mean, we've each taken a look at these cards already and are loosely familiar with them.
Right. Our knowledge of the format at the time is limited. Certainly we know about some of the cards. Power, like the power creep things, the numbers were less for HP and damage. We'll kind of keep that in mind. But these were all useful cards. I guess our knowledge of how good they were at the time, we'll do the best we can. Obviously, let us know in the comments things with that you think could be clarified.
Yeah. And so I guess let's just hop right into it with the first card here. And I believe the first World Championship, it's actually like kind of confusing. But the first one that was, at least I looked at the World Championship deck. So the first one I have here is 2004, I believe. And this card here is Team Magma's Groudon. And so it has, I guess I'll read all the stuff about it. It is both fighting and darkness type, has 100 HP as a basic here, has a Pokebody. I will say Limitless says it's an ability. I don't believe that's correct, but also honestly, finding rulings about these cards online is hard. I believe they exist, but it's just hard to find. But anyways, it says as long as this Pokemon, or as long as the number of Pokemon in play, both yours and opponents, that has Team Magma in its name is 3 or less, Team Magma's Groudon can't attack. Then we have for fighting in colorless, we have the attack linear attack, which we've seen a lot of times, which says you choose one of your opponent's Pokemon, do 20 to that Pokemon, and then you don't do weakness or resistance for a bench Pokemon. And then pulverize here for 2 fighting in a colorless. You do 50 if the defending Pokemon already has damage counters, at least 2 damage counters on it. It does 20 more damage. It actually says it does 50 damage plus 20 more, which was some like older wording. It's not used that way anymore. Then as Third Retreat, Grass Weakness. And yeah, so there's a bunch of things on on this card. But what are your initial thoughts about this card?
Well, first, yeah, in terms of the pokey bodies, like you said, Limitless says it's an ability. It's not exactly the same. I don't think pokey bodies and abilities were in this overlapped in the TCG and standard format together. I could be wrong.
I think
So
they did, right? They were back to back, so they overlapped a little bit, but not that much.
okay, so maybe there were some official rulings on the interactions, but obviously, these cards, this is like not in expanded format, so how they interact is less clarified probably in general than some other things. But um, so that part that is what it is. Obviously, as an ability though, there's similar abilities. Unless you have so many of the same of a certain type of Pokemon. It can't attack. That's fine. No big deal there. The attacks are fine. The numbers are what they are relative to the time. I think that what's unique to this is the Pokemon is 2 types at once. And yes, when I read that at first, and you kind of corrected me, I was thinking like a Pokemon like Hoopa V, which is correct. It does have 2 types, but that's from its ability. But therefore, if the ability shut off, it just has one type. So Hoopa V is a darkness Pokemon. Its ability makes it psychic as well when it's in play, but the Team Magma's Groudon is always those 2 types, I believe. It actually has a special energy symbol in the upper right corner for the type with the clarification that in text lower that below the illustration that it is both those 2 types.
Yeah, and this is something we have seen since then in the uh, the X and Y era with like Steam Siege and maybe the set after it. There was a like Volcanion EX, which was a very solid card. Not the one in standard, but the one in expanded here, which it does some stuff. Honestly, the fact that it's dual type, as far as I'm aware, doesn't really matter for decks. Oh wait, no, it did matter for like one of the decks, but the Xerneas deck. But ultimately, it's kind of not crazy impactful and not repeated that much. So the Team Magma's Groudon here with the two types is pretty cool here. And this is another thing that is like it's clarified within a box here, this little text box, but it's not an ability. So that's interesting. There are some cards like that we'll see, which is different than, as you said, like with, well, I think you said Hooper V, which isn't standard, but there are also cards like that in standard, like some Scovillains and stuff, where they have abilities that make them dual types. But then you see in standard, I believe Pokemon only have they have one attack generally, or and then sometimes a second attack or an ability. You don't see Pokemon with multiple abilities or more than two in any combination of attacks or abilities. Here we see functionally an ability. Of the Pokebody, you have two attacks. You also have another thing, which is kind of like an ability, the dual typing. So, well, the fact that this isn't an ability it doesn't matter too much. I mean, it could, or like something like that. It can't be like turned off, but I don't think it's a huge deal. It allows you to have more stuff in the card, which is interesting. And we've only seen this. I mean, as I said, we saw a dual type Pokemon, but that was a pretty small thing. There's also ancient traits, which are kind of like abilities, but not quite abilities, which allow for more stuff on the card. So I think it's cool that you have a lot of just stuff on it. It can be a bit much, I guess. And it's not like the individual things are that flashy either. Like the Pokebody, the different attacks, and then the dual typing, they're all pretty
Yeah.
simple. I don't know how interesting it becomes when they interact with each other, but it could be cool.
Yeah, with one of the things with the way the card art is it's a special energy symbol of the two types. I pulled up the Volcanion EX, capital EX, that's both fire and water, and it has both a regular fire symbol and a regular water symbol. But with the older card, they made a special symbol. Things were less standardized, right? Like you said, the way the one attack was, it does 50 plus 20 more. They've kind of streamlined it. What's a lot of the wording we'll might get in. We'll see. Maybe it has been streamlined. Things have been standardized. They were a lot less standardized back at that time, which kind of makes sense. Things are still getting developed.
Yeah, I think the energy thing is not uncommon. I think this was done with some different Pokemon, like the Dark Pokemon, or other things. Again, I'm not super familiar with them, but I know this was used some. Also, so you didn't really describe the image if someone's not like watching, if they're
Oh
just
yeah,
listening. And it's a fighting. It's as you said, it's fighting darkness. So it's a fighting like the fist, which is orange, and then the darkness symbol, which is like the dark blue black color, is the outer circle, as opposed to it all being like one color. And actually, this is kind of used. So if you look at Team Rocket's energy, um, because I was actually looking at this with the I was making a video on special energies, and you can see that it's the darkest energy symbol and the psychic energy like color on the outside, which is pretty interesting here. I think that's kind of fun.
oh, that's true. That's true. They did something, yeah, kind of the same thing there. Good point there. Um, yeah. So, I mean, as a Pokemon, I think it's. I don't know. It doesn't seem like a super like the greatest Pokemon ever. It might have been really good. Obviously depends on the deck and the other decks around you. But it's a solid Pokemon. I think it's the two types at once is probably the interesting thing. The rest of it is pretty, I would say, typical for a Pokemon, right?
Yeah, the like ability, the quote unquote ability is like kind of bad. Certainly not helping it. Then
Yeah.
the attacks are kind of whatever. Do believe this Pokemon was very, very good. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it was like kind of incredibly strong. I looked some at the deck it was in, and it was good. I mean, you can also see, imagine what you're looking at the print of this from Team Magma versus Team Aqua. But it also was
Yes.
printed in Celebration. So like, the cards in Celebrations were, I mean, they were on all good. There were some like kind of silly ones, I think, but pretty much all of them were quite good. So yeah, Team Magma's Groudon was a good card here. But now I think we can
Yeah.
move on. Oh, do you have more?
What one thing just because we're looking at I'm looking at Limitless here. So if you want to get the original print, it says it's $50 essentially. Now I don't know that it gets sold very often, but from Celebrations it's less than $1. So kind of interesting there. So if you just want the card to use, versus if you want the collector's item, just that big spread of prices.
Yeah, don't know really where you'd actually be using the card.
That's true.
But yeah, so then we have another card though. This is a Pidgeot card which has 100 HP here. It has free retreat. I'm not going to read all the stats here. The attack for 2 colors though does 40, stops your opponent from retreating. Then you have the Poke Power here. I guess we didn't really explain Poke Bodies versus Poke Powers. Uncommon Fossil, do you know the difference between Poke Bodies and Poke Powers?
I don't, and I was wondering. I was looking at that and wondering about that. So can you enlighten me on that and
Yeah,
everyone else?
so, and this is a little like weird too. I'm not going to explain it quite perfectly, probably, but Poke Powers and Poke Bodies are different because Poke Powers are ones that you activate. Poke Bodies are like passive. Um, so, for example, in Standard, you could have, I guess we were talking about Volcanion EX. So, Volcanion EX, it has an ability that you use, and it like does a thing when you use it. So, that would be a Poke Power versus something like I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example of a. I mean, I guess Team Rocket's Mewtwo EX, right? That's in a like more passive thing that's like always happening, or something that
Right.
reduces your damage or increases your HP. Those
Or
would be
or
Poke Bodies.
or like you said with Scoville and EX, right? It's
Yeah,
both, but it's two types in this ability, so that's just always present.
yeah. And the reason for that difference there, it allows the Pokemon to have more like specific interactions, and also Pokebody. It can then be like because I believe Pokemon TCG Live that has a challenge that says like use abilities, right?
Yeah. Yes, and which is has annoyed me at times because if I play, hey, if I was playing Hoop of V in a deck and that was in play every turn, I'm using that Hoop of V's ability, right?
Yeah,
Every
kind
time it
of.
sits there.
So then the Poke Powers are things that you use, and so that matters for certain interactions and allows for more different design things, but it's also a little complicated at times, and kind of weird. But anyways, did want to talk about that some. And so, anyways, this is the ability, or it's not the, it's the Poke Power Quick Search, which says once during your turn before you attack, you can choose any card from your deck, put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck afterwards. You can also not use this Poke Power. You cannot use more than one Quick Search each turn. Also, this power can't be used if Pidgeot is affected by a special condition. I think this was pretty standardized for the Poke
For the Poke
Powers.
Powers.
Yeah, I guess not Poke Bodies. I don't know. I'm not super familiar with it. Maybe it's not all of them. But anyways, it's a thing here. So yeah, I don't remember. I don't know exactly why this was the case, but it was. I don't know if it was super meaningful. It might have been, but anyways, did want to acknowledge that that's not like a special thing to Pidgeot here.
Yeah, no, we'll see at least one more card later on. I think that has the same text, the same thing. That's a Poke Power. It doesn't work if it's affected by a special condition, which of course can only happen in the active spot. You can't have a special condition if your Pokemon's on the bench, and this is a Stage 2 Pokemon, so if you obviously could evolve out of it too if it's in the active, so even to get around that. So it's called Quick Search, and it's the same essentially almost as obviously Pidgeot EX is quick search, right? You search your deck for one card. You can only use one quick search per turn. So they essentially reprinted this identically on a new Pidgeot, right? But made it a two prizer, which was certainly a big shift, I would say.
Yeah, it is meaningful. Pidgeot EX also does have in standard lower HP compared to like pretty much all the two prices that are played. It's by no means bad. I think you said we weren't going to talk about the World Championships. I do believe this is in the finals. I'm not 100% sure. The finals of the Masters division. I have not been paying too much attention. I haven't been like watching it. I've heard some stuff, but I mean it's a very strong card and its low HP isn't like a huge. It's not like some massive liability on your bench. I wouldn't say just in general, but it is a good card, and obviously Pidgeot, the stage 2 here was a good card as well. And it's interesting how like these search Pokemon, a lot of them. I don't know. We're gonna talk about some different support cards, but this is like something that's. I mean, it's the same, right? It's the same from when it was to where it is now. There's not too much to break down here, but it's interesting that the power levels in this area haven't changed too much.
Yeah, assuming we consider Poke Power the same as an ability, it's essentially the exact same ability printed on back then as a card today. Going from one prize to two prizes on the Pidgeot EX, I think is a way to kind of nerf it, right? Saying that the old Pidgeot was a little strong. Let's get the same ability, but make it give up two prizes. Because yes, you can attack with the Pidgeot EX. You're not generally doing that though. So it's a support Pokemon. You'd rather obviously be just a single prize Pokemon. So, but was good. It is good. The attack wasn't terrible on it. Two energies, 40, and the opponent Pokemon couldn't retreat the next turn. That's not what it was there for. But that type of thing's always useful as well.
Yeah, I don't know what the meta was looking like in terms of the amount of switching cards people were playing. It could have been good, like really good, and or it could be like kind of meaningless. Um, but yeah, anyways, it is like a fair attack here. Not too much to break down with this one, but it is interesting to take a look at. Then we have
Yeah.
the next card here, which is a special energy. This is a lot of text. This is double rainbow energy here,
Yes.
which says double rainbow energy can only be attached to an evolved Pokemon, excluding Pokemon EX. Then while in play, double rainbow energy provides every type of energy, but provides two energy at a time, and it doesn't count as a basic energy when not in play and has no effect other than providing energy. And then damage done to your opponent's Pokemon by Pokemon that the Pokemon double rainbow energy is attached to is reduced by 10 after weakness and resistance. And wait, what? And then when the
Yeah.
Pokemon double rainbow energy is attached to is no longer an evolved Pokemon, you discard it. There's a lot of like kind of weird stuff that's like changed. I mean, this is like super long as well. But
Yes.
long story short, it's two energy of every type on an evolution single prizer, and it reduces the damage you do by 10. So yeah.
I mean, yeah. So it's a good energy, obviously, a useful energy, right? Whether it's good for the game or not it would certainly be a question. Because I'm part of this one. I think of what would happen if we brought that back today. Because they do different things with different energies, right? Like they reduce the damage, trying to get some balance. They could obviously modify that, but and it doesn't work on if it was reprinted today, it would probably you'd want to make it just not rule box Pokemon. But two energies of any type for an evolution, it's a nice energy. I don't know, would it be overpowered? As I'm trying to think, single prize Pokemon don't are always kind of the underdogs, so probably it wouldn't. I don't think it's going to make a deck or two overpowered. So it's an interesting energy. It only works on evolutions. I like that. Well, there's some other things like that. And then if it's on a non-evolution Pokemon, it actually gets discarded. So if you had this attached, you got attacked by TM Devolution, went back to a basic Pokemon, you would just lose the energies, which is interesting too.
Yeah, that's something we kind of see, but that's more or less gone away. But this is kind of similar to reversal energy. I was also looking at it. I was kind of
Yeah.
confused by the use of actually parentheses here. This is like, I don't know, people might not care about this at all. You might not, but parentheses are used to clarify something, but they're not used to normally add new information. Um, but here they are. Like, it says it can only be attached to an evolved Pokemon, and then in parentheses, excluding Pokemon EX. But like that's important. If that wasn't there, the card would change, right?
Oh,
Um,
it would be like way more powerful, obviously,
Yeah,
if
which
that
isn't
wasn't
really what
there.
parentheses are supposed to do. They're supposed to clarify something. I looked at reversal and it doesn't have that in parentheses. And then
Well, so what reversal has, 'cause I just called that up to double check it myself. It says it has to be an evolution, and then it says without parentheses that doesn't have a rule box. Then there's parentheses just clarifying what a rule box is. So like that's the idea of the parentheses clarifies rule box, but that the rule box is in the main text still.
yeah, and then also it says later in parentheses damage done is reduced by 10, but then it says after applying weakness and resistance, which is in parentheses, which makes sense for the parentheses. But then like something like double turbo energy is before. So generally
Yeah.
in standard, the way it's done is if you're dealing damage, it's before. Um, and then if you're taking damage, like I can't think of it, like Defiance Vest. I don't know. There's not that many defensive good
Yeah,
cards in standard.
reducing.
But they'd be after. So it's like interesting that that's different here. Not sure why it is the way that it is, but it is that.
Yeah, so I don't know if that was the standard way things were done back then, or if that was the exception. Or were things just not consistent back then? That's something I don't know about the way it was back then. But yeah, that's not the way it works now. So a good energy. These type of rainbow energies are always interesting. They allow good things. Now I'm glad this wasn't in format when Lugia was around, right? Because we already had enough trouble with Lugia when it had all those special energies. This would have
Um,
just
maybe. I
probably.
mean, but they it was mostly there for basics, right?
That's true. That's true. If this was in, yeah, that's true. I mean, I guess you would have had to think about some other. Would there be evolutions to get that value out of, right? And
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, and I feel like again, it's kind of similar to reversal. I mean, I don't know you don't like reversal. I'm not like the biggest reversal fan. I don't know. I do like it. Theoretically, I like it a lot. But anyways, like reversal can like kind of do everything this can do, but better sometimes. So like if there's a card that's broken with this, I think it would potentially be broken with reversal. Um, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, reversal works if you have an aggressive deck that you're looking to attack and get ahead on, which is what to me most decks are looking to do. Then reversal becomes a niche card in those decks, I think. So decks that are built around reversal, but they're also looking to be aggressive, I find a little awkward. That's kind of my position on reversal. It's good for obviously like those milling decks or control, control type things. You're getting behind, and you can use one or two reversals, but then you need some other like a triple acceleration energy or something else to use most of the time with one or two reversals when they fit in.
Yeah, no, I do see that. But counterpoint, most of the single prizers
Yeah.
are bad, so they're going to be behind anyways.
Yeah, which in one sense makes the whole discussion of single prize energies that work on single prize. You can almost say, why bother, right? I guess, but but it's interesting. Obviously, single prize Pokemon and things that work with them are, we certainly have a soft spot in our hearts for them.
Yep. But then we have the next card here. This is Mew EX. I believe this was the first Mew. I don't know if this is the first Mew that worked like this, but it has a. I'm just saying ability. It's a Pokebody, but it has also EX. This is the same, I think, EX mechanic as we have in Standard. So it's a basic. It's a two prizer. Also, sorry if there is any background noise, and it's even more unfortunate that we're in the same place. So it's raining outside. But anyways, Versatile here says that UEX can use the attacks of all Pokemon in play as its own. You still need the necessary energy to use each attack. Also, I will say, and I think you brought this up as we were discussing these, not today, but like previously when we were talking about these cards before the podcast, it says MewEX as opposed to this Pokemon. This Pokemon is used like now because it's like obviously it's like this Pokemon. So if you have some like other MewEX that's not this MewEX, then it doesn't let you use it doesn't let that MewEX use these other attacks. Did want to clarify that. Doesn't really matter here that much, but will matter with some of the other cards. But anyways, then you have an attack here, which for Psychic Colorless, it's called Power Move. You search your deck for an energy card and attach it to UEX, then shuffle your deck, and then you can switch it with one of your bench Pokemon. This attack is okay, I guess. It might have been good. I'm not sure, but obviously the reason it's good here is the Pokebody giving it a lot of, well, no pun intended, versatility, and also 90 HP here. I think was okay for the time. I don't think it was bad by any means. Not super confident on that, but I do know this card was very, very strong. Being able to copy Pokemon of any stage, obviously need to be in play, but also it can copy your opponent's Pokemon, so it can do so many different things.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the card I think about when I see this is like Mewtwo and Mew GX, which copies just what the rule box, what GX and capital EX, I think, right?
Yeah.
From the discard pile, whereas this is from the in play. And there's, I think, about other cards that do the in play copying as well. I that I've used. I think I forget what they
Yeah.
are.
Well, there's the Mew from what Ancient Origins, I think. No, Fates Collided. Yeah. Which you'd play. It copies basic Pokemon that you have in play. So you played it, I think, in Mad Party. Maybe not Mad Party, but something like that.
Yeah, yeah. It was that or something else. I don't know. Obviously, copying for the discard is better because you can get more card attackers in the discard, more mad partiers. But yeah. Look, I got to imagine 90 HP. It was a two prize Pokemon, so this was a rule box Pokemon. Giving up 90 HP for two prizes, I can't imagine was very good though, right? That's but it's the attack or sorry, the Pokebody is very good. So obviously you need some downside to make it balanced with it. So very strong. And they've had and obviously it's compared to something like the dragon right? Which just rotated
Reggie
the V
Draco, yeah.
Star. Regidrago, that has copies from the discard pile. This is from in play, but also the energy cost for Regidrago, it was fixed. Was it grass fighting, I think?
Fire.
Grass fire. Yeah, sorry. That's what I was thinking in my mind when I said it. And whereas Mew EX, it's whatever you're copying for the energy. So which could be good or it could be bad, right? It's less standard, but of course you know it gives you different options by copying. By in this case, you need the energies of the attacker, so your attackers kind of have to be within some limitation of types. You can't have every type of energy to work in your deck, I wouldn't imagine.
Yeah, I think so. The attack here, I believe, can accelerate special energy. I don't know what special energies were in standard at this time. I would not be shocked if there's like rainbow energy. But also, it's interesting copying your opponent's Pokemon, and I think this is interesting on top of the fact that, again, you're using the attack cost of those Pokemon. It makes the card very like dynamic from game to game. If you're playing against a deck where you can easily copy their attacks, then that becomes very meaningful. Versus sometimes you'll have to like reach to do it, or it just won't really be viable. I think that's pretty interesting. This card, I know was a pretty iconic Pokemon. I think it's pretty cool. I've not played with it. I mean, there are cards similar to it that I played with, but yeah, definitely an interesting card. And I've always liked these kind of cards where you copy the attacks, really in any form. I mean, we have like Mew EX and Standard that copies attacks, but that's kind of boring. That's very different. Um, this is way more interesting, and I mean, I think both of us would love to have a card like this back in the game.
Oh yeah, it'd be a lot of fun. The other card that's kind of like it from Pocket, is it a Mew? I assume it's a Mew that copies your opponent's what active Pokemon, but
Yeah, I
you have
think
to
the
have the
Mew has the
energy.
same attack as the Mew EX in Standard.
Okay. But you have to have the energy on it, and
Oh,
the way
Ditto. I
Pockets.
think Ditto.
Oh, is it a Ditto? Okay,
Yeah.
it's a Ditto. But you essentially you can't get that. You basically or can't get the energies that you need most of the time. So it makes it that card's kind of unplayable. Whereas this, obviously, you also can copy your own Pokemon, so you make sure you have the energies you need for your attacks, and then can take advantage of your opponent's Pokemon when it helps. So a very fun card. Yeah, a card like this to have to play with in decks would be certainly a lot of fun.
Yeah. But then we have the Dex card here. This one is also interesting. This one, oh, I'm looking here on Limitless, and most of the text isn't on Limitless. But this is
Yes.
Holland's Magneton. I believe there's a Holland's package. Not super familiar with it, but I think there's some certain stuff. And then the Pokemon aren't really attackers here. This stage one here, which involves some Holland's Magnemite, I'll say. Oh, Limitless says it doesn't, but I'm pretty sure it does. The Limitless info is a little less accurate for these older cards. So the image is the image, but some of the text here is not entirely correct. But anyways, it's called Extra Ball. For Metal Colors, you do 30. If the defending Pokemon is an EX, you do 50. But then you have this thing on the bottom. It's not an ability or a Pokebody or a Pokepower, but it says you may attach this as an energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon that already has an energy attached to it, a card attached to it. Then when you attach this, return an energy card attached to that Pokemon to your hand. Will attach this card is a special energy card and provides every type of energy, but 2 energy at a time. It says it doesn't do anything else, so this is really interesting. Type changing cards are kind of interesting, kind of weird and complicated, right? I can't think of any type changing cards in
Yeah.
standard. Can you?
Well, oh, type of card it is. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
like
not
whether
like
it's metal. It doesn't come metal into fire.
yeah.
But well, you've got the uh the the fossils, right? Their
Yeah,
item
the
becomes a
fossils. Yeah.
Pokemon.
So those, yeah. So and they're kind of weird, right?
Yes, they're weird too. Less they're weird in a way that that makes them more difficult or less useful. This is weird in a way that potentially is very good though.
Yeah, and I believe this is your attachment for the turn. Um, that's like kind of what it seems like. And then there are other ones like this. There was I don't remember. There's just some different ones. So they're a similar idea though. I think there's one that's a basic that's just like a colorless energy and that you just attach. And then I think there's another one that's like exactly the same as this, but just a different Pokemon. And this is another double rainbow energy, so it's just kind of funny.
Yeah, so you have to have an energy attached already. I assume from the previous turn. I don't know what there were for trainers to any energy acceleration, but then this on your turn, it already has what energy. You attach this as an energy. The original energy goes back to your hand, so it has two energies, but then two energies of every type. So very useful, and it's not restricted to non-rule box Pokemon or anything like that. So pretty interesting card. And I'm guessing since it's an energy, I don't know why you do it, but you could probably bump one of these Pokemon with another Pokemon because since it's already an energy card, you could attach this and get the other one back to hand. I guess we have different types of Pokemon that do it. We're probably different types of energies. You could switch things around that way too.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. And then also I think I mean the one as I said I think is just a colorless, like a colorless energy. So this is obviously a lot better than that.
Yeah,
But yeah, so this is interesting. It's also searchable off of Pokemon Search, which is really meaningful. Because searching basic energy is like it's not super hard, but it's like obviously we're playing a lot of Pokemon Search, presumably a lot more Pokemon Search than Energy Search in your deck. And then searching special energy is like super hard.
yeah,
So this is really a cool card. I've heard a lot about this card and the cards like it from people who've been playing the Pokemon TCG a long time, and they've said like really cool things about it. Yeah, this is definitely a card I feel like would be fun in standard. I don't know, it seems pretty strong, but I mean you're mentioning the Lugia Archeops thing, but this isn't like it wouldn't work with that. It doesn't seem
right.
like it could lead to crazy combos in the way that some of the other special energies could. Maybe I'm wrong, but it does seem cool.
You could. I just blanked on the right name, but the stage one that moves fire energies right from the bench to the active.
Oh, yeah,
You
the
could use that
Armors.
with the Armor Rouge would really love this in that deck.
Yeah, I don't know if it'd be. I say I don't know if it'd be broken. I don't know, but it'd be good. It'd be quite good.
I mean, like if you had it in Dragapult, right? You have one basic energy, and then the next turn you attach this. You have your two energies because sometimes you can't get the right mix of energies, so it could have some value. If it was in standard format now, you'd certainly I would certainly be sad that we have Nest Ball rather than Quick Ball because obviously you don't want to search for it with a Nest Ball and put it onto your
Yeah,
bench.
not this one, but
Um,
there's one that is a basic. This is a stage one.
Oh, that's true. It's stage one, so you're right. Those wouldn't work. So you need Ultra Ball, or back in the day, Evo Incenser. I don't know what they had
Yeah.
then. So, um, yeah. So, yeah. And actually, I think the next card actually ties into that, right? If I remember.
Yeah, I
But
guess
it's
so.
right. There's nothing else to say for this card, right?
No, no.
So, I mean, the funny thing with the card is when you look at it, it has all this text on it that's very important for the energy. And then, like you said, in the way Limitless describes it, all that important text is not in the description at all. So they've kind of, just missing the most important information on that Pokemon. It's kind of
Yeah, because
funny,
it's
but
not like in the normal template of the card, so it's just not there.
right, it's not a rule box. It's not an ability. It's not an attack. It's something else. So the next card we have is Professor Elm's training method. So this is a supporter card. Back in the day, you could play supporters turn one, so that helps them a little bit. But I'll read the text. I think you'll come to pretty quick conclusion whether it's a good or bad supporter. Search your deck for an evolution card, show it to your opponent, and put it into your hand. Shuffle your deck afterwards. So we have items that do the same thing. We had Evo Incense that's exactly like this on an item. We have Ultra Ball, obviously, that gets it done. Obviously, you need a couple other cards, but it's on an item a lot better there. The other thing was odd when I read it, you told me you think this is how the cards were written in general at the time. The text, which says you can only play one supporter card for each turn, that's fine. But then when you play this card, play it next to your active Pokemon. When your turn ends, discard this card. So, which you said was common, and it was just a way to kind of keep track of supporters played and such is in what they did. So, which is fine. And that actually, I kind of like that. I was wondering if there was some boost with some other card to your active Pokemon, but you don't think that was the case. It was just kind of a tracking method.
I think, yeah. And obviously Pokemon, we've talked about the sum and like the history of the game. It's like, um, I was gonna say it was like based off of Magic. I don't know if that has to do with it at all, but like there's a lot of like weird things going on with the rules as we've been talking about. Also, the random story, not random, but I was playing against someone IRL, and they thought this was still a rule. This was like last year, so not
Oh,
sure. Yeah.
supporter turn one.
No,
Okay.
no, the putting it stays in play next to the card because I went to like I'll pat it
Okay.
back, and they're like, "What? You can't do that." And it's like, I definitely can do that. So, anyways, yeah,
Right.
this is it's interesting though, like as tracking, and then obviously as we said, like the card itself is like really bad. I mean, it was good. As I said, I'm pretty sure, unless I like misclicked, all these cards won world championships. Or at least did very well. I think they all won. In the Masters division. I think the Masters division was the thing for all these. And so, or like something like the Masters division. So,
Yeah.
regardless, this card it's like so weird that this card was good. I think Pokemon originally they didn't have supporters. They just had these like general trainers, and they were kind of like very good, right? They were like professor's
Yeah.
research, but an item, and then they made the supporters. But I think they like took like half of the like the weaker items and kept them as items, and like the stronger items and made them supporters. But like there were still items. They were trying to like kind of balance the same. So then I think a lot of the supporters were pretty weak at this time.
I think, yeah, right. Everything was just a trainer, or if I whatever it was, I don't know. Everything was a trainer, and they split them between items and supporters. But they did, yeah, probably wasn't a big distinction between the two, so made the items really good compared to the supporters because the supporters weren't that much better than the item. You can only play one per turn. There definitely been times in Pokemon history where there wasn't a lot of Pokemon search, so there have been times when a supporter like this would have seen play too, just because there wasn't many cards to search for Pokemon. We've got a lot of options these days with a lot of good items, so getting the Pokemon we need, it's. I'm glad there's good Pokemon search because if you're just kind of top decking or just playing research or I don't know, hoping you get what you need isn't a lot of fun. So I think being able to search out the cards you want to set so people can set up reasonably makes the game more enjoyable.
Yeah, also speaking of supporter Pokemon search, there's a few reasons why they can be good. One, in standard, we see something like, say, Brock Scouting see play. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not an amazing card, but it sees play mostly because of like Badoo, stopping people from setting up using items, so then you can play a supporter instead. I don't know if that had to do with this. Another thing, this one definitely does not have to do with this, but obviously, generally, supporters are stronger than items, and so then if you have supporters that like do the same thing items do, they're slower, right? You're not playing more than one supporter per turn. That being said,
right.
you're still going to be able to use the supporters to like get you set up. If you play like 20 supporters in the deck, supposed to like a split between items and supporters, you'll like always have a supporter. Missing a supporter can be really bad. So if you're playing a supporter every turn, you're going to have consistency, not speed, not necessarily strength, not necessarily a good deck, but you will have consistency there. Um, to make sure you're pretty much always set up by a certain amount of time. Again, that time you might just get rolled over, but it does like kind of more or less guarantee that you get set up, which is interesting. I am a big fan of supporters, specifically in like alternate formats like cube draft or something like that. I like supporters a lot.
No, supporters are really important. I mean, I think items are the kind of the heart of a deck because getting multiple good items a turn is really key to having successful turns. But you need supporters. You need to play a supporter every turn of some sort to kind of facilitate things. In certain sense, a supporter to get an item, it is not a terrible thing. So, the
Yeah,
balance of the two obviously very important. So, all part of the deck building and how the game is. So, but
yeah.
supporters back then, this is an example of a played supporter, nowhere near the level supporters today.
Yeah, also kind of a funny thing between you and I, because obviously you think items are the backbone. I kind of think supporters are the backbone of decks. But
Yeah,
then in terms of the decks we actually play, I like more like turbo item heavy decks, and then you like the like a lot of decks where there's like four of a lot of supporters, right? So that's kind of funny there.
that's true. Yeah.
But anyways, let's move on to the next card here, which is Jolteon EX. This one is again an EX. It has 100 HP, 2 prize area stage 1, evolves from EV. Its ability Evolution Thunder, I think is the interesting part about it. I'm not sure, but it seems like the most interesting part. So once during your turn, you play Jolteon EX from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon. Again, that's this Pokemon to evolve one of your Pokemon. You may put one damage counter on each of your opponent's Pokemon. Then you have 2 attacks here for Lightning Color, so you do 20, but 10 more for each damage counter on the defending Pokemon. And then you have Thunder Blast for Lightning Colorless, which does 70, discard a Lightning from this Pokemon. So I think the attacks are okay. They're not like crazy interesting. Second Bite, moderately interesting, I guess. But the ability, or I guess the Pokemon power, no, sorry, the Poke Power. It is pretty
Right.
interesting because we see stuff kind of like this, but not exactly like it.
Right. I mean, the interesting thing to me is that it's a non-playability. That's fine. We've had that, in the past, and we have it. It's around, but it does every Pokemon, which isn't the norm, right? It does one or two Pokemon typically. So hitting one on each makes it interesting there. Um, and then you can stack it as which probably was part of this deck too, right? To use the first attack, 20 more plus 10, 20 plus 10 for each damage counters, getting those damage counters built up on your opponent's Pokemon. Imagine was a big hard part of the strategy for the deck. So the attack and in the quote ability, which is a Poke Power, fit together, and the fact that it hit every Pokemon. That's obviously a nice thing. An ability today, it would definitely, it would see play. I got to imagine with a Pokemon with a similar ability today. So, spread's certainly a thing, and being able to spread across all your opponent's Pokemon, it's a plus.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't mention it does have free retreat, which is cool. It is being like a
Yep.
two prizer with 100 HP would probably be pretty terrible. But yeah, Scar
Yeah.
definitely interesting ability. Or Poker Power or whatever. I believe that the deck, I don't have it here, but I believe it was because I did like set this up. I looked at the cards, and you haven't looked at the decks and stuff. So I believe it was a damage counter manipulation deck, which is pretty interesting. Kind of like
Okay.
what we see actually with like Frostlass and like Eudori and stuff, which I think is kind of fun. I think it's almost going a little bit old, where it used to be like super fun and rogue, and now it's like not as rogue. But yeah, Jolteon EX, I think a cool card. I don't know if there's too much to talk about here because it is similar to standard cards. Not
Yeah.
exactly the same as you said, but it's a card I could see in the game.
Yeah, it's a small change. Obviously, I mean, if they printed it on a two prize Pokemon with 100 HP, it wouldn't have any value. Would I can't imagine it seeing use. But if they made that on the appropriate Pokemon with that same as an ability, I could see that having value in the game.
Yeah, definitely. I think a fun card here. Oh, I just realized if this wasn't standard, you could play it with. There's like an Eevee that evolves instantly. Then you could like play a bunch of these, and then
Oh
you could
yeah,
like theoretically win turn one, maybe.
right. There's
Probably
Donk
not,
with
but
the poison and such. So now you have more Donk, right? You have to keep. It has to be the active, right? The one you're
yeah.
thinking of to evolve. So
Uh-huh.
you need some switching. But yeah, maybe you could. Yeah, that's true. That part probably wouldn't be good, right? You'd have to get rid of that basic EV that evolves turn one. I would imagine instantly. I would imagine.
Yeah, that'd be kind of broken. But I think that's enough of this card, and let's move on
Yeah.
to something else that is also broken, pun intended
Yes.
this time. This is the Stadium card, Broken Time Space, which says each player may evolve a Pokemon that he or she just played or evolved that turn. And also, this is kind of similar to Forest of Giant Plants, except that's just grass. And the new Stadium, which is not out yet, well, it's out in Japan. It's called, I don't remember what it's called, something Forest, Vitality Forest, I think. And it says that it's like you can evolve the first turn that you like play the Pokemon, but not turn one. This can work turn one. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure.
So crazy good, right? It is, breaking the rule, but also broken and probably breaking the game. Being able to evolve immediately, just crazy. And I assume that you could go from a basic to a stage two immediately as well with this.
Yeah, not
Am I
using rare
right about
candy,
that?
I'm pretty sure, but yeah, you could play the basic, then the stage one, then the stage two. Yeah,
So yeah, I don't. I mean, that's just not good, right? I mean, it's too powerful. I would say, if you made it like for non-rule box Pokemon, then maybe because obviously non-rule box need more love to be competitive with things. So, um, would it be too good if we did that? That's
I
probably
feel like
an
it probably
interesting
would
question.
still be too good.
Yeah, it might be. I mean, maybe if you made it non-rule box and it can only move one stage, you couldn't go from basic all the way to stage two on the same turn.
Like imagine
That
this
would,
with like the Dunsparce or something. Like I'm a Dunsparce hater, but like if you could do
yeah.
like draw, you could probably draw like your entire deck or something, using just your Dunsparces.
That's true. Yeah, no, you're right. It wouldn't be good. Obviously today, like with Dragapult, if you could do this, and then you get your Dracloaks evolve turn
Yeah.
one. So all of a sudden you're digging through your deck, and it'd be pretty rough. So to be playing against. So I can't. I find it hard to it's a bit hard to understand why they thought that was a good card, because I think it was pretty good at the
I
time too,
think
right?
I
It's
think it
not.
was like kind of fair-ish. I'm not entirely sure exactly how good it was. I think it's not as broken as it like kind of looks. But I think they kind of have to like design every card in the game around it as well, which like isn't good, right? You don't want to have to do that for a card. Like you look at something like I don't know. I feel like there are sometimes cards where like maybe double color energy or something like that, which is why they kind of, or like Lugia, right? They have to like design every special energy
Yeah.
around Lugia. That's not usually a design of a good card design if it like kind of messes with everything else.
Right, like with Lugia when it first came out, it had for one set it was like crazy good, like absurdly good, but then they also did it intentionally so that you had that and then it rotated. So if you liked it, you got to enjoy that. If you hated it, then you didn't have to live with it too long.
Yeah,
I
except in
guess what was the
live.
idea. Except in live, well, both in PTCGO and in live,
Oh
right? I
yeah,
think,
yeah. Maybe not in live. Maybe it was
but
just PCGO.
well, yeah. I mean, well, yeah. PTCGO, I think that was it. Didn't They didn't put any new cards in after that, so. But that's not what this podcast is. So anyway, a crazy good card, one that, yeah, you couldn't bring it back into standard format now in a way that would be at all fair. I can't imagine.
Yeah, I mean there is the new lively, what was it? No, Vitality Forest, which is like obviously kind of similar. It's like you can evolve
Yeah,
the turn you play it, but it's not turn one, so that's a pretty big difference. And it's only one type, and the type's like kind of
right,
bad as well. So
right. I mean, like this with being able to do any type and rule box Pokemon, you just have to have a whole different set of idea of card design to make it at all fair. So, yeah. So,
um,
an
I,
interesting
I
card.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I will say it kind of obviously it helps evolution. So if you look at formats that are like very basic heavy, it is good for evolutions.
Yeah.
But it also kind of makes all the evolutions kind of play like combo-y basic decks. So I don't wouldn't say it actually addresses that problem either.
No, right. I mean, what I was saying earlier, if you had this in format, you'd need something like Chaotix or some cards to really make it to be some counter to it, probably. I mean, obviously, or because yeah, you don't want to have to play that with this card in format. You don't want this to be so good that everyone has to play evolution decks, right? You want to be able to play basic decks as well. So you need some way to counter it, or I don't know. You have some card that can counter it maybe, but you don't want just a basic you slap and play and counters it. That's probably too strong a counter. But so yeah. I mean it's just put broken in the name, and to me maybe at that time it was fair, but generally it's just too good of a card for most formats.
Yeah, like if you've ever heard talk about unlimited, that this card is probably going to be brought up because again, it is broken. But then we have another card here that is also very very good. I think again it wasn't as strong at the time, though I'm pretty sure it was still pretty good. And it's Uxie here. It's Uxie level 55. Not really sure what that has to do with it. I know they like put that on some cards. But anyways, it says with the ability or the Pokepower setup, when you play this Pokemon from your hand to your bench, you may draw till you have 7 cards in hand. Your attack for one colorless here it does 20, and then you can put Uxie and all attached cards to the bottom of your deck in any order. Then there is another card here as well, which is Uxie level X. I think the level isn't part of the name. I'm not really sure. Anyways, this is Uxie level X, which is it takes up the same like name slot, I guess, as Uxie, so you can have up to 4 in any combination of Uxie level X's and Uxies. And then is a
Right.
level up from Uxie. So what this means is you put it onto your active Uxie, and then you can copy the previous evolutions, the attacks and abilities or whatever, or sorry, attacks and Poke powers and Poke bodies of the previous like Pokemon or level or whatever. And this has an ability or again a Poke Power which says trade off, which is look at the top two, put one on the into your hand, put one at the bottom. Can't be used effective if used by a special condition, and you can't use more than one of this Poke Power each turn. But it's kind of like Dracloak or like something like that. And then Zen Blade for 2 colors, 60, can't use it next turn. I don't know if that was particularly good. But anyways, obviously you have two very strong draw Poke Powers here.
Right. The idea that with trade off that you can only use one per turn compared to like Dracloak, which you can do unlimited on a single prize Pokemon. Um, it seems a bit almost unnecessary having that restriction, and plus the fact that you can only have well, at
Two.
most three copies.
Well,
Well, you could have like a 1-3 line. You wouldn't though. But also,
wait, how would you get the others in play?
well, you probably don't. I'm just saying you do a 2-2, or I actually this was a deck that came in third at like what Europe at the time, and this was played Broken Space Time, and then it
Nice.
was a 3-1 line, three basics, one of the Uxie X. So you have the four copies there. So you're getting the Uxie using that ability, and then you're playing Uxie X, and you get that Pokepower as well that turn. And you could, if you want to get it out of play, you could even use the Psychic Restore attack that turn and just shuffle back in the deck depending what you have. So, or just, or you're probably using it just to set up a different attacker, but you can always get it out of play to reuse it later in the game too.
Yeah, so like obviously, if you're not familiar, there was a Pokemon with the ability set up, which was Shaman EX, which is now banned and expanded, and a bunch of cards that work with it, or like a card that worked with it was also banned, which is the same thing, except it only let you draw till six, and it was also a two prizer. So
Yeah.
yeah, this is like very good. It's just drawing you a lot of cards. You can use multiple Uxies in a turn. I believe the format was slower, so it wasn't really used that way. And they
Yeah.
were hard to get out of play. But then, I mean, you still have the Uxie level X to have it as like a solid draw engine, and it is like somewhat versatile. So this card seems like kind of crazy. I do like cards like this personally, but they're a bit much, probably.
I mean, yeah, I think, like you said, the format was slower. You couldn't just spam these early because I think you would deck yourself out before you could win the game, I believe, is the way things worked. So, but obviously, like now, if you could just have this and just unlimited draw, essentially, there's turbo decks, and this is like beyond turbo. So, um, you like compare this to obviously the Shaman, which was banned, but then the fix of the Shaman was the Crobat V, right? And that was a two prize Pokemon. This is a one prize Pokemon. And that again was on play, just like Uxie Crobat V, but that only drew to six in hand, right? And this is seven, and you can only use one per turn. So this is just much better. Compared this to Crobat V, there's multiple nerfs that they had to do to get Uxie down to a level that was they considered playable with the Crobat V, right? Less cards, two prize Pokemon, only one per turn. That's a lot of change they had to make to the Uxie.
Yeah. So I kind of would like something like this, but probably shouldn't be in the game. I will say the level X's are cool. I was gonna include some other ones. It's interesting because it lets you copy previous evolutions. I was also considering including like newer Pokemon, like Greninja Break or something. But I think the idea of copying previous evolutions is cool. The difference in like the fact that it's like the same name as Uxie or whatever in terms of deck count is interesting as well. I don't know how much that mattered, but it seems really interesting. Um, the level X mechanic also needing to be in the active is interesting as like a bit of a restriction. But overall, I feel like this is a really, really fun mechanic. I don't know how well it was used. I know level X's there were some good ones and some interesting ones. I don't know how many interesting level X's there were with the like regular Pokemon as well, and how much they like were interesting together. But as we are talking about at the very beginning of this episode, there are cards that are older cards, and they're interesting because they have different attacking options and abilities more than you'd see on a current standard card, which would just have two. You could have something more. You could have more with like Relicanth or Tactical Machine, just something like that. But that's the more of an exception. So I think this is cool.
Yeah, and I don't know if you said it or not. Yeah, I don't. But it can only, your Uxie has to be in the active spot to do this quote evolution. Although it's not evolving, right? So when I say that, that's technically wrong. But it's essentially like an evolution. So it has to be the active, which is an interesting restriction on it. And like you said, you can only have four copies of the Uxies with the level X or the other non-level X Uxies. So it was some interesting decisions to make it fair, right? To make the game balanced with it. So I like that about the card.
Yeah. But now, do you want to talk about the next card here?
The next half a card.
Yeah, I can't
So
read it, so I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, because it's printed sideways. So this is Rayquaza and Deoxys Legend. So there's a legend. The legends were only Pokemon, right? I
Yeah. Oh, and
assume.
this was the first set of cards that we played with the Pokemon TCG Online. I mean, I did not play with this. I don't know if I ever saw anyone play with it, but I think I did.
Yeah, and it's half a card. So the V Maxes were a quarter of a card. This was a half a
Reunion.
card. The V Union, sorry. Yep, thank you. You know what I meant. There.
Oh,
Up, got some thunder. The rain stopped, and we got thunder. Hopefully, the power doesn't get disrupted with whatever's happening. So, what it says here, and it's really hard to read, and also, again, Limitless doesn't translate all the text on the card, so it makes it harder. The cards print a lot of it. Text is printed sideways too.
um,
So
yeah. Well, it's like sideways. It's at like weird angles too.
yeah, which is interesting, right? They're kind of following the topography lines or whatever. So, but it has this text at the top, which kind of fades out to white. But put this card from your hand onto, I guess, your bench only with the other half of Rayquaza and Deoxys Legend. So you need to have both the left and right halves of the Deoxys Legend, and then you put them onto your bench together as one combined card, right? So you can have, I guess, can you only have one copy of each of these? Do you know, by the
No, I
way?
think it was two. I mean, I think it's, and I was gonna say the same as the reunions, where like the pieces all have the same name, but there's only two pieces, so you could have two of each. I believe. I think when this was played, it was people played one copy of each, though. I mean, they're pretty
Yeah.
clunky, so they're more so tech options. But they're easier to get into play than reunions, which you need. If you're not familiar, you need four copies. You need one of each, and then you need them all in the discard, which is, I mean, it might be easier than all in your hand, but also does require some setup. And also, those are three prizes. These are two prizers, and it's like they're decently strong. The V unions were pretty committal and not super strong.
Right, because you had all four pieces. I mean, with the four pieces of the union, probably having them in your hand wouldn't be good because to try to have all four pieces in your hand at once means you either have to be able to have a huge hand or you're going to have a bunch of like you're going to sit there with three V union pieces and one or two other cards, right? So the discard pile was, I think, a good decision for the V unions. The V unions, I don't think were overly successful. Um, as just they weren't very playable, is what I'd say. I guess is design. So, yeah, looking through, so like the list I see here, it was a 1/1 copy. So it's an interesting thing, though, right? The idea of two cards that make one Pokemon. The V Unions were four cards to make one, so similar. Although this fits actually on your bench a lot better, being two cards. The V Unions obviously just had to stack up, right? Um,
Yeah.
so two prizes off the legend here. So had one attack, had one Pokebody, and that was it. And the other half of the card, I believe, was just image. It didn't really have
I
any
think it had
text on it.
HP, I think was on the other half.
Yeah, but no attacks or abilities or anything like that, though.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Oh, I
So
just
we're
opened up the set and I saw Alf lithograph, which is not what I was expecting to see, but yeah, yeah, just the HP on the other one and the name.
right. The name. Whereas the Venus, I think they all had like an attack on every piece, right? So they kind
Yeah,
of changed that about it. Doesn't really matter, right? Once you have to have all two pieces or all four pieces in play at the same time. So it doesn't matter where the text is because it's not like you could use like something from one piece and then attack from the other piece the same turn or anything. So that's just doesn't really matter. But yeah, they were really tough to play. Like in PTCGO, I think I ran into these cards a few times early on, and I was just very confused by what was going on because also these cards were like the wrong way, and I had no idea what was happening in the game.
yeah. Oh, and then what this does, I'll quickly read that, which we haven't we haven't said yet.
Yeah,
So when you take a knockout, you take an extra prize. We've seen this before. And then you do for fire, lightning colors, you do 150. You discard all fire from this Pokemon. Also, there's some other things I want to say about this card because we were talking about the V Union wackiness or the legend wackiness. So I think you said it's like four cards, or sorry, two cards that make it one Pokemon.
yeah,
It's one Pokemon like in play, but it does feature two Pokemon like the tag team said. So that's kind of interesting there. Also, the typing on this
yeah.
super bizarre. it's psychic and colorless. It's both types, and then it's also weak to psychic and colorless. And then its attack
Yeah.
cost is fire and lightning, so it's kind of weird here. Because I think it has to do with like dragons, and they were in the game. Um, but anyway, so obviously this card, like the card isn't that crazy. Taking extra prize, we've seen things like this before. It's kind of like Iron Hands EX, right?
It is. Oh, and the wording though was clunky, and I had questions for you with it because of the ability, which well they call it ability, but again it's a Pokebody. If your opponent's Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an attack of Rayquaza and Deoxys Legend, take one more prize card, which raised the question to me: would it stack if you had two in play? Because it says of Rayquaza in Deoxys Legend, it doesn't say this Rayquaza in
Yeah,
Deoxys
no,
Legend,
it,
which
it
is
is
what it.
this Pokemon. None of them said this. They just said the name of the Pokemon. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's this Pokemon.
Yeah, I think you're right, but the terminology has gotten better, right? They've made things a little more clear from that. So things have improved in that sense with the card design, making things more understandable. So but yeah, so an interesting card. I don't know. Was this was the first time that they had a card like this that was a Pokemon split
I
across
think,
multiple cards?
not 100% sure, but as far as I'm aware, I believe it is.
Okay, and then they did this, and then they had the V unions, and is that all they've done this far?
Yeah, and that's the last one that's ever gonna happen because they're weird and clunky. And this one you could also pull in packs. You could pull like half of a Pokemon in a pack. So yeah,
So they fixed the V unions, I guess, assuming you consider it fixed. That it was in a tin, right? A special thing that had all four pieces, so you were guaranteed to get the full Pokemon, not just a piece of it. I mean, look, I don't think it's the last it's happening. Whether they're going to do three pieces or I assume they can't go to six pieces, right? I think four has pushed that limit there, but they'll do
yeah.
something again, right? Well, someday, some format, some form. So I don't know what'll be interesting, but we'll see. With the V news they had it as an interesting concept, but they tried to make it not very impactful to the gameplay, so it wouldn't cause trouble, and I think they succeeded that time with it.
I guess. I mean, Mewtwo was not bad, but it wasn't
Yeah,
amazing either. Anyways, we
no,
have a few last cards here. We have
yep.
Magnezone here. This is a stage 2. This has the Poke Power here, which says once your turn, you can draw until you have 6 cards in hand, and then you have an attack here for Lightning Colorless, which is put as many energy attached to your Pokemon as you like in the Lost Zone. It does 50 damage times the number of energy cards you put in the Lost Zone this way. And also it does have 140 HP, which like honestly this card, comparing it to standard cards, is not bad. Also, if you're not familiar with the Lost Zone, it's like the discard, but you can't get it back essentially. And I will also say there's Blacephalon Blacephalon GX, which actually is the same attack. Oh, I thought it was the same name. It's not. But it has the same attack here, essentially, except this was a lot more recent. And it is a basic, but it is a two prizer, so it's like a very similar attack, which is interesting to see like how like strong this card is compared to standard. It's not. I don't think it would be amazing in standard, but I think it would be very playable.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, obviously the ability is or the Poke Power is too good, right, to be in
Too
standard,
good?
even on.
I don't think so. I think it's
Well,
there's
you think
the
it's
Beauty
fair?
Fly, right?
Well, you don't.
Which isn't
You need to
standard.
do. And is that the same thing? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it's like the same. It's not in standard. It rotated, but it's like the same thing. Well, because like the barrels drop to your 5, but this is stage 1. This is a stage 2. I feel like stage 2 draw engines usually aren't great.
Yeah,
It's okay. I'd say it's
that's
like
true.
could be
You're
played.
right. You're right. The Beautifly was the same ability, so that its attack was a lot worse. Does 70 for two for comparison, whereas this, um, you know, especially in a single prize or lower HP format, 50 per energy you put in the loss. So now you're going to run out of energies as you go on, so you got to be careful with how you manage that. Which is its challenge, but the damage number is pretty nice there. So it's a good ability and a meaningful attack, which is what you really want in a Pokemon. So this, just a good card, I would say.
Yeah, definitely a fun one. And I mean, Lost Zone mechanic kind of cool. That's like a one that will probably come back. It's not like crazy. I mean, it's meaningful and strong, but it's not like it introduces these really different gameplay patterns, I wouldn't say. But overall, like a card with a really solid attack and ability is fun to see. We don't really see that too much in the game. Like a draw ability that's like similar to other good draw abilities, and an attack that's similar to other good attacks.
Yeah, not that often. I mean, the thing that came to mind, which is kind of the case, is Genesect V, right? But that was
Yeah, a little different.
y- yeah, you had the good attack, but you didn't actually attack with it. So
Yeah,
I,
I'd say
I don't.
Edzork EX, I guess, would kind of fit in that role, which is a pretty good Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean they made it so at the ends package isn't that great for Pokemon to attack from, right? So it's I don't think that ends attack is probably as good as this Lost Burn on Magnezone. I could be wrong,
Yeah, I
but
mean
I
Enz
think
is
it.
I mean I'm speaking of the World Championship. Enz is doing decently, or what did decently. I
Okay,
know I don't know exactly how well it did, but I know it like overperformed compared to how I think most people were expecting. But anyways, this is a
okay,
cool card.
good.
We don't want to linger on it too much,
Yeah.
because we're a little long here. But the last card here is Smeargle. Actually, you want to talk about this one? You I think are a little more familiar with it.
Yeah, so Smeargle, it's got the Pokepower portrait. So once during a turn, if this is in your active Pokemon, look at your opponent's hand. If you do choose a support card you find there and use this effect, and use that effect use the effect as the effect of this power, and so so you can copy any. You have to use a supporter though, right?
Yeah.
Once you do so, like if you don't want to discard your hand and all you see is Professor's Research, you're using it. But very nice. There's a theme deck with a Smeargle, right, that had this as an attack, right? That you now you didn't have to use the supporter. I don't think if you didn't want to, but it was your attack for turn. So having his ability is very powerful, right? I would think it's a very nice card to have as an option. So you obviously have to be careful. Like I said, if there's supporters that you don't want to have that are going to wreck your day, you got to be a little careful about it. But yeah. So, but a nice an ability to give you a second supporter for turn is just a really good thing.
Yeah, and I think it can stack as well. Also, you can use it with
Yeah.
something like Iono or something functionally similar to that for some like interesting I don't know, just doing some like weird stuff. So overall, I think Smeargle is a cool card here. Kind of like I don't know, I was gonna say like Tatsugiri in standard, but like Tatsugiri just gets you a supporter that you can play. It's not letting you use multiple. So this is cool. It's like kind
Right.
of versatile. Obviously both players interact with it as well, which I think is fun. So I like this card a lot. I think it's a really cool card. And one that I played against some in Legacy. I might have played with. I don't remember if I actually acquired it. But definitely I think a fun little card. Not super complicated, but I think a nice one to end off on here.
Yeah, no, a nice little poke power or ability to have on a card for it. Not with a good attack really, which you wouldn't want this card. The poke power is strong enough. I don't think you want a good attack on this little single prize basic Pokemon. So yeah, a fun little poke power there to wrap things up with.
Yeah, but overall, I think that the World Championships are really looking at different eras of the Pokemon TCG, really highlight different cool cards, some which are forgotten, some which are remembered by a lot of people as well. But comment down below if you're watching this on YouTube. On the YouTube channel is 10 Types Are Uncommon Fossil, your thoughts on these cards, your thoughts on the new cards in the World Championships, and everything in between as well. And also, you could check us out on podcasting platforms. If you are listening to us on a podcasting platform, and you do have a comment or something like that, a question, make sure you do leave that on YouTube though, because we unfortunately are not able to see them on podcasting platforms really at all. So yeah, but we hope you enjoy and make sure you like if you're watching on YouTube and subscribe and all that good stuff. And as always, we're excited to see you in the next episode.
Take care.